Barcelona 2, Real Sociedad 1, and it had to be Lamine Yamal to come on and absolutely put it on a plate for Lewandowski to finish off the game. Now, Barcelona itself, I think Hansi Flick would be very, very annoyed with how many chances they actually missed. The amount of chances they had on goal, on target, and they only managed to score 2 goals doesn't send very good warnings to the rest of La Liga. And Hansi Flick will definitely be looking at his men and saying, what on earth is going on here? A lot of Barcelona fans will actually be echoing that as well. And I had to just look at that match across the entirety. First half, Barcelona were actually relatively poor for me personally. I looked at them. They were just trying to maneuver the ball, trying to score the perfect goal all the time. And it just was the inevitable case where Lamine Yamal actually replaced Ronnie Balaji, and he actually cooked again. He cooked again. It's just as simple as it is. It's always second nature for him to actually come on and then just go, okay, cool. I'm just going to take this game myself. And he did that. He was absolutely destroying his man consistently, time and time again. And Lewandowski had a chance towards the end of the game where he hit the crossbar and it went obviously to goal line decision for that. But the whole move essentially was manufactured by a very direct play by Barcelona. Yamal on the end of it, cut back to Lewandowski, and Lewandowski absolutely missed himself from that distance. It's crazy to think that. And Hansi Flick is definitely going to be looking at it. He said, you need to actually fix up, because they also have a string of games before El Clasico. We know that also. It's not the toughest games in the world, but against PSG in the Champions League, which I'm thinking they're looking at, you're like, if you're taking these chances against PSG and you're missing it from there, you're going to lose the game. And that's what Barcelona are looking at the Champions League this week against PSG. And PSG, if they're going to be on the other side, they're not going to be Sociedad. Trust me on this one. They're going to be absolutely destroying you in those areas that Sociedad had chances in. And I don't think Barcelona are going to deploy such a high line against PSG that they did against Sociedad. I think it's going to drop a little bit much deeper for them. And there were certain players that I actually really, really enjoyed watching today from a neutral standpoint, essentially. And that was De Jong, Pedri, Koundé, and of course Yamal when he came on. Even actually Rashford had a very decent game. He was consistently threatening essentially from that side. And I looked at it and there were certain instances when you look at, okay, cool, Rashford is cutting in and he's using his pace to get away, to take his man on and then unleash a shot. I saw one shot that was actually flashed completely in front of the keeper and obviously palmed it away, wasn't into trouble. But yeah, Rashford took the ball, he just scooped it behind him and then just absolutely laced a shot. And that's what I'm seeing from Rashford. I think a lot of Barcelona fans are looking at Rashford as the genuine replacement for Rafinha, even though Rafinha is the guy at Barcelona, especially with his goals and assists last season. You can't really replace him like that. But now that Rafinha's out, then you're going to see Rashford in. And obviously Rashford's probably going to have his time to dance again against PSG like he did with Aston Villa, and I think that PSG are definitely going to be worried about him. But I think the most player that they're going to be worried about is Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal is something incredible on the football. When you watch him and you're just looking at what he's going to do next, there's always something special about him. There's very few players in the world that actually, when you watch them give you that feeling. And Yamal is definitely that, where you're kind of on your edge of your seat. You're just like waiting to see what he's going to do. And yeah, absolutely. A very, very good performance from Lamine Yamal, considering he came off the bench and completely made an impact in less than a minute. That's the key attribute here. He made an impact in less than 1 minute. That is incredible. incredible. And you can see the natural technique that Yamal possesses, and his vision, his eye coordination, especially with the football, is probably one of the best in the world. And definitely, look, that second place is going to bother him all year, and he's probably going to go for it once again and try and get that Ballon d'Or again for the next year, because on the ball, he is going to have so many chances to score, so many chances to provide assists, and so many chances to absolutely cook the opposition. And that's what he did today against Sociedad. And I look at Sociedad today, they actually did decently well. They set up really well to actually counteract a lot of what Barcelona were doing, especially when they were holding the ball in the kind of center area of the pitch. They were just waiting and waiting and waiting for that high line to step up, and then release a ball over the top. That's the main point I think that Barcelona and Hansi Flick are going to look at, is that over-the-top ball is consistently harming Barcelona. They had a couple of times on the right as well where they could have threaded it right across the box, flashed it across the box for someone to try and tap it into. But also Sociedad were trying to look for more of a perfectionist approach and trying to pass it, maybe pass and move a little bit in the final third. But they did obviously get their goal from that, essentially, where it was just a rapid attack, essentially, and then just put it across the box in the goal. It just out of the blue against the run of play. And Barcelona fans, I don't think they'll be too displeased with how they performed. I think they'd be displeased with what they're doing in the final third. And it's been a consistent theme for Barcelona this year. They do have the absolute opportunities, countless times to score goals. Like, it's always going to end up in that 10 plus shots on target area. We know that already with Barcelona. The amount of times that they maneuver the ball and some of the play that they did towards the end of the game was just really, really good. Like in very tight spaces where Sociedad are really crowding their players. They're moving really well in those areas. And this is what you have to admire about Barcelona and the way they play football, is that they don't really get fazed by that. De Jong was exceptional today. Exceptional last game when he came on, and exceptional today. That guy knows how to keep the ball in midfield and rotate it. And this is what I'm talking about with a deep line playmaker. And that's what Real Madrid are missing. They're missing that deep line playmaker, because when you saw it against Atletico Madrid, we just needed a player like De Jong, or even an elevated player on the level. Obviously, there's not going to be like Toni Kroos at the moment, but a player like Toni Kroos to just literally just calm down the game. Allow the players to make runs beyond, and a player that can actually pick them out and just control the game from that area. De Jong was absolutely exceptional. Pedri was also exceptional. Some of the skills that he was doing, unreal, out of this world. And look, it's just him when he glides through the middle of the pitch, especially when you give him space and time, it's a problem area. And that leads me on to pretty much kind of my final pointers throughout this match reaction. And it's a problem area for Real Madrid, because Real Madrid, when we saw it against Atletico Madrid, how they leave in space, and it all leads to the El Clasico, people. It all leads to it, because when they're leaving space in behind the midfield area, especially the gap between the defense and the midfield, it's too big. You're going to have players like Pedri, you're going to have players like De Jong there exploiting that consistently. And you're going to have, obviously, Yamal on the outside, maybe Rashford on the left-hand side, depends who's going to play, maybe Rafinha, and Lewandowski in the centre. They're going to actually form triangles consistently around the players. So Real Madrid, what they need to do, especially against Barcelona, it's all going to be leading up to it anyway. It's 1 month away, guys. I know it's kind of like an early thing to say, but they need to be closing those gaps within the defence, and the midfield is too sparse, it's too wide. It's not good enough to contain a team like Barcelona, because they'll just pass through the centre of you. You won't even see the ball. So this is a constant theme with Barcelona, is that when they play in the ball in the midfield, it looks like they are unfazed by pressure. That's it. It's as simple as that. They're unfazed. And I looked at the Vallecano game and how they played and how they pressed. And that is the typical example of a team that's actually well set up to actually deal with Barcelona on a consistent basis. And we expect that from a lot of teams in La Liga who know how to really win the midfield battle against Barcelona and then hit them on the break, or hit them when they're trying to press high. hit them over the top with a through ball or a lofted ball or a director chance, especially down on the wings, where you beat the offside trap and then you can just literally run a play in the midfield. That's what in the centre, sorry. That's what I'm thinking with Mbappe, maybe, with Real Madrid and the wingers. If they can literally just bypass on the wing and hit it into the middle into Mbappe, then we're going to have a string of chances against Barcelona. But look, the whole situation today, I just wanted to go back on the match. Look, Hansi Flick obviously brought on Yamal. Like, René Bargi, he was decent. He was decent. He made a few shots. He wasn't that bad. But Yamal is a different level. You see the difference between an average player and a world-class talent is different. You look at them differently because Yamal, when he picks up the ball, he's super direct. And when he passes out, especially when he drops deeper to receive the ball from Koundé or the midfielders and they're creating triangles, he's always making the runs. He's always looking who's in front of him. That's the key aspect here. You look in front. You don't look on the side, essentially. You look in front of you and you're saying, okay, how can I initiate attack in this kind of position? And that's what Yamal did when he came on. De Jong the same. De Jong was consistently trying to run forward, trying to create chances, trying to open areas in the midfield, which would be exploited by Barcelona, especially against Sociedad when they're trying to chase the game. You're going to have areas behind it to exploit. And De Jong and Pedri did that exceptionally well. Olmo as well did that exceptionally well. We saw him today make a few passes in between the lines, in between the defensive line itself, and it caught them several times off guard. Even that pass, that lofted pass to Lewandowski, I thought he was going to go out to the left to Rashford, but that's almost creativity in his vision there. He always likes to do it something different that is not expected. And Lewandowski is always going to be a player that's going to be on the end of the goals. He's always going to be that. So we just need to keep an eye out for that because as Real Madrid edge closer towards this El Clasico match, we have tough games. Villarreal being one of them, Getafe being another, and of course Barcelona. Like Kairat is going to be, like I said before, a mask. Barcelona have this huge task to overcome PSG. So they're looking at that game. They're focused on that game. And if they beat PSG, they're going to have super high momentum going into the rest of the La Liga campaign because that PSG match is one for the ages, I'm telling you, especially in the group stage. I know not all the players are going to be featured. Not all of them are going to be featured, but you're going to see it there and you're going to see a lot of Barcelona players trying to win that game convincingly. They're trying to, but you know what PSG are they're gonna make it super difficult for Barcelona also. Don't worry, I got my French beret, I've got my baguette coming, I've got my little Eiffel Tower statue coming. Everything's coming for that game, and that watch along is gonna be nuts, guys. Take care, guys. Adios. Obviously, thank you much for everybody who's subscribing to the channel. We've nearly hit 18k. And yeah, we're soon on our way to 20k. So 20k is the target, guys. Make sure you subscribe, like this video. Take care. And all I got to say is a la madre y nada más. And we'll take care. See you later, people. Adios.